listening. I want to welcome you to the Sunflower Nation, whether you have been a loyal listener all season long, or if you are just scrolling through today and happen to run into this video. Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Dr. Edith Banks. I am the founder and CEO of the Sunflower Nation. And we are very excited today to be having our 10th episode of our podcast, which is also going to signify the closing of season 1. And we're going to take about a 3-week hiatus and roll out season 2. And I have some really great, amazing women for you to hear from in season 2. We are going to do a special we're going to do 2 very special segments in season 2. One that is going to be dedicated to healthcare workers. So we're really speaking to women in the healthcare field who every day sacrifice themselves and somehow have to learn how to navigate and balance everything going on. So definitely looking forward to doing that month. We're going to do a month-long celebration. So we'll have 4 different women in leadership who work in the medical field talking to us. And then we're also going to do a Caribbean Heritage Month celebration. The month of June is Caribbean Heritage Celebration. And so we are going to do a series of podcasts from women from the Caribbean, sharing their stories with us and telling us how they have navigated their various roles. So today, what I thought I would do for this final episode of season 1 was to actually just do an open communication with listeners, answer some of your questions. I have reached out to previous guests of the podcast, and they have submitted some questions for me to answer. So I'm going to jump into it just like this. Usually I'll have our listeners share a little bit about themselves and where they currently are in their professional journey. And then I'll just interject with different questions. And so today, like I said, your special guest is yours truly, Dr. Edith Banks, founder and CEO of the Sunflower Nation. So to tell you a little bit about me, if this is your first time watching one of my videos, I am a new entrepreneur. I have a doctorate of education in executive leadership, and I recently left an 18-year career in higher education and transitioned into starting my own leadership consulting firm. I call it a boutique agency because while I do work with other coaches and speakers who I do consult with and do hire under the Sunflower Nation, primarily my services are provided by me. And again, so it definitely is a boutique consulting firm. And I pride myself on that because sometimes the level of intimacy that you are able to develop in a coaching relationship is so important. You want someone who really understands you, who is committed to you and to seeing you succeed. And so before I bring anybody else onto the team on a full-time basis, I really want to ensure that they share similar beliefs as those of the Sunflower Nation. And so that's a little bit about the nation. I have been teaching and speaking for well over 10 years right now. But to say that I've been doing it full time, this is brand new to me. To leave a traditional 9-to-5 job and jump into this definitely has been scary, but also so rewarding. And that's what I really try to focus on, are the positive things that have come out of this journey for me. And so the first episode of the Women in Leadership podcast, I believe, aired on February 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. We were originally scheduled for a January 1st launch date, and I had some family situations going on, which I've spoke about in previous episodes. And so we ended up pushing our start date back by a month. And so we are here though, and that's really what we want to focus on. So I'm going to go through some of these questions sent in by listeners and previous podcast guests. And if you have questions and you're on live, I can see the chat. So you could put a comment in the chat if you want to ask a question. I'm happy to answer it. It could be a question about anything under the sun. And I will do my best to answer it as transparently and honestly as possible. So first question that I have here is, what advice do you have for women who feel stuck in their workplace? And it goes on to say most women would like to move on to bigger and greater jobs. Some women are very unhappy in their current role or place of employment. However, they're torn between sticking with their current role or place of employment because of the flexibility works for them and their families. What is your perspective on this? So I definitely know a lot of women who feel stuck in their workplace, or not necessarily because they don't have the skill set to move on to a different role, but specifically because of what was just mentioned, that comfort, that flexibility that comes with being in a particular organization for a long time. And so oftentimes women, particularly women who are mothers of young children, can sometimes feel stuck, feeling like they can't move on to a different position because of that level of flexibility that they have. Now, I will be 100% transparent. When my son was 3 years old, he suffered from a great deal of social anxiety, to the point I couldn't drop him at school because he was screaming and running out the door behind me. This is normal. Many kids go through this. But that was very challenging for me, because my son would literally sit and cry the whole day, for hours. And they would call me every day and say, you got to come get him because he's just crying too much at this point. And that year of his life, I really thought like, oh my God, these people are going to fire me because every day I have to leave to go get my son, or I have to leave for a little while to comfort him and reassure him, that I'm coming back and he's safe there. And so that was very difficult. And so I definitely understand that feeling of, I have other family responsibilities going on and I need this flexibility. What I would say to these women is a couple of things. Examine your area, your surroundings, right? Do you have a partner or a significant other who is going to support your decision to move on to another role? And sometimes that may be, if you feel that unhappy or that stuck in the position, it may be that you maybe not even have a new role to go into, but being in that space is just such a negative experience for you that it could potentially be affecting your health. It definitely will affect the way you interact with your family, and your overall just quality of life. And so if you are in a place where you have a partner who is supportive of you just taking some time away from that position so that you have time to really explore your options, I would definitely say take advantage of that if you can make it through with just the one paycheck. Now, if you are a woman on your own and you don't necessarily have a significant other, or maybe you do have a significant other, but financially you do require both paychecks, I would say take a chance on yourself. A lot of times, women in particular have a tendency to discount themselves and think that, this is the job that they have to be in, that there's nothing else coming. I really am a big believer in taking safe risk, right? So explore your surroundings again, right? Do I have a cushion to fall on? Do I have a support system? So if my kid gets called or gets sick and I get called from work, is there somebody else? Is there an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent who will be able to pick my child up for me on occasion if I just start a new role and I'm not able to do the traditional, mommy jump and run. But it is definitely not an easy transition, particularly if you have been in that particular role or for that or with that organization for a long period of time. But I would say, if you're not willing to bet on you, who is going to bet on you, right? So explore your options, see what is out there. Don't be shy about telling people that you are, exploring other options, because a lot of employment, most employment, let's be real, these days is through networking, right? I know somebody who's looking for a job. Let me tell them about this person, and a lot of it happens that way. And so if you are secretly looking for a job, it's going to be very hard for you to land that job if people don't even know you're looking. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be blatantly disrespectful to your job, your current employer at all. I definitely don't recommend that. The reality is, wherever you are, whether you're happy or not, it is fulfilling one of your needs, right? It is putting food on your table. It is giving you a salary. And so let's not forget about that. And in the interim, if you really feel like you are not in a position to move, uh, that may be okay too. It may be that you just have to find a different way to think about what you're doing. Find something positive about the job that brings you back, that makes you want to work in this place. Is there a different responsibility that you could take on that you would find more fulfillment in? So while this was a broad response, I think these kinds of decisions of being stuck and needing to move into a different role are things that are very individual. And so that's where a good coach, hint, hint, comes into play. If you have a good coach, they will definitely work with you to explore your options, help you build your confidence, and prepare for that next step in your professional journey. So next question I have here, why have you put so much effort in your success? What is the underlying drive to wanting it? And how did you stay on track with it despite all of life's obstacles and challenges? So I'll break this down. Why have I put so much effort into my success? I think naturally that is my personality. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And um, I just have that tunnel vision as it comes to growing and pushing forward, right? Like I set my eye on a goal and I go after it hardcore until I have reached that goal. And so I think that's just part of who I am. That's how I grew up. You want something, you work hard for it, you will get it. But what was the underlying drive to wanting it, and how did I stay on track despite all of the obstacles? I think, and I don't want to share my entire journey on this one podcast episode. It definitely will be in my book. That's another shameless plug. I'm writing a book, but it will be in my book. But there were several traumatic experiences that have happened in my life over the years, from being a young adolescent to as a young adult, as well as currently right now. There are certain traumas that kind of stay with me. If I had to identify the top 10 big moments in my life, for me, that would come very easily because they stick with me. And so one of the things that I have struggled with myself in life is really just finding people that I identify with and that I feel like I can trust, right? We might call that friends. And because of some of the experiences I've had, I'm a little bit cautious about who I call and consider a friend. That being said, part of my struggle to trust people and allow them in stems from me not feeling connected. So, one of the things that has become very important to me is sharing my journey, because what I learned later on in life was a lot of the things that I struggled with, whether that was anxiety, whether that was depression, whether that was difficulty, connecting with my parents or siblings or feelings of isolation, regardless of what was going on. I realized now that someone else was going through it, right? And it wasn't until I went through my cancer journey that I realized that, oh my goodness, like I'm struggling, I'm going through this. I'm being secretive about it. And had I not been so secretive about it, I would have had a village of people around me supporting me and encouraging me. But because I was almost embarrassed to be going through it, I kept it to myself. And I think that has become my mission in life, is to be able to share my stories so that other people, but specifically women, know that as they are going through certain things in life, they are not alone. You know, when we look on social media and we see beautiful couples together and they're on vacation, you know, as a young woman, you may think that is what a relationship looks like all the time. And that is not true, right? Couldn't be further from the truth. Couples have disagreements, but they're not going to post that on social media to show you, right? Everything is not always peaches and cream. Just because you see somebody driving a luxury vehicle and living in a nice neighborhood does not necessarily mean that person does not have struggles. And so for me, it became basically my mission to make sure that as long as I had breath, that I would be able to share my journey with other people so that they could learn from my experience and feel a sense of connection, knowing that they're not alone in going through this. And what I always end with is, you know, in that moment when I'm going through whatever it is that I'm going through, if I, you know, I give the cancer example, in that moment, I didn't think I would make it. There were times where I really felt like, okay, this is it, but I'm here, right? That's what I always say, but I am here now. And so when we think about that terrible thing that we thought we could never get through, the reality is you are here and you are here now, which means you have overcome that. And so for me, that is the underlying drive that keeps me going, is because I don't want other people walking around feeling alone and isolated. I want them to know that despite whatever the challenge is, there probably is somebody else going through something similar, and sharing your story can inspire them and give them comfort in knowing that someone else identifies. So that is the underlying drive for me. Next question. In my personal journey, what are the things that you must have to stay grounded, fueled, and holistically well? So I would say number one thing for me is my relationship with God. And I'm not here to push religion on anyone, you know, be it whatever faith you are a part of. But for me, when I wake up in the morning and before I go to bed at night, if I do nothing else, I thank the Lord for keeping me throughout the day. I always try to find ways and things to be grateful for. And so more than anything else, I would say that is what really keeps me grounded. Knowing that despite what's going on, I have a higher being covering me and protecting me, right? And you want to know what keeps me fueled, I would say is probably the same thing. When I'm having that bad day or I'm feeling discouraged, I turn on my gospel music and I sing like I can sing, even though I can't. But it brings me a great deal of joy. It gives me that energy that I need to keep going. So I would have to say that is my source. It feeds me. My faith feeds me. And for me, there's nothing better. Now, are there other things that I do? Absolutely. I love, you know, just hanging out with my family, my son, my partner. Like we just have a good time together. And sometimes one of the things that I need to do is disconnect from work and just enjoy time with my family. So that is very important to me. I would love to be able to say I'm one of those people who say, you know, I exercise every morning and that gets me pumped up. I used to be that person. I'm trying to get back there. And hopefully by the time season 2 airs, I'll be able to give like a positive report and say I'm back on my Peloton and I'm doing my Zumba and my yoga and all of that stuff. But again, I told you I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be fully transparent. This is not my season of fitness, but I'm trying to get back there. But I think it is important for us to identify things that fuel us, right? What helps you stay grounded when you are feeling like quitting? And again, um, look around you. Look around you. When I look around me, I see a whole lot of love, a whole lot of love. I have really great friends who are so supportive of me, but also of this journey that I have embarked on. I have a great family support. Um, so for me, those things keep me going. They keep me fueled. And again, because I believe in the work that I'm doing, I'm able to do it another day, regardless of how tired I might be. All right, next question. How does love impact women as they climb the career/corporate ladder? I think, again, this is a broad question, and different women will have different responses to this, but I'm going to just answer this question on my own. So, my partner, my husband, and I have been together for 18 years. 18 years. We share a 14-year-old son. And, over that course of 18 years, it has not always been great. And when I look back at when were the times that we had the most challenges, I would say it definitely was during the periods of time when I was really focusing on my career, trying to grow into different positions, or if I had recently received a promotion, we definitely struggled a little bit more there. And it was not at all because my husband has any insecurities in regards to me being a professional woman. He has always been very supportive and always encouraged me, to climb that ladder and go after whatever it is that I wanted. But for me, because I have this tunnel vision, right? I just need to get it. I want it. I got to get it. I want it. I got to get it. It really did cause me to kind of pull away from my family. And I just threw myself into my work so much. I would go work my 9 to 5. I would always go early. So I definitely out the house by like 6:30, 7 o'clock. So I could get to work early. I would, I couldn't necessarily stay late all the time because I did do after school pickup for my son, but I would get home, I would cook dinner, finish cooking dinner, put my son to sleep, and then I would come sit in my office and work another 4 hours because I just wanted to make sure that I was proving to everyone that I was worthy of this position and that I could do it. And I realize now that was definitely not in my best interest. It was not in the best interest of my relationship. And if I had to do it again, which I am doing it again, right? Starting this venture really is climbing the corporate ladder, right? I'm starting a new business venture. And so I am very aware of the importance of still making sure that despite how busy I am, I make time for my family and for my partner, so that it doesn't become where a space where I'm spending more time at work, even on the weekends and in the evenings, and not spending time or giving the intentional effort towards maintaining romantic or even friendships. So I think that is very important. What I will say in general, for women, I think oftentimes women, young women in particular, feel like they have to choose between being a career woman or being a wife and mother. And there's this feeling that I can't do both. But you definitely can. There are plenty of women who make it happen. And we have actually showcased many of them on the podcast this season. And so what I would say is that you just have to be intentional about it. But part of it is also understanding that no one is perfect. No relationship is perfect. And it does take effort to make a relationship work, particularly when you are also trying to grow your career. Another question I have is, what was the pivotal moment that had you decide that you were going to start your own business? So for me, I would have to say, I've wanted to start my business for many years now. I was one of those people, though, who is very comfortable in my organization, right? I'd been there for, at that particular organization, for 15 years. I was making a decent salary. I really enjoyed the people that I worked with. I loved the students. I really felt the work I was doing was impactful, which is very important to me. But ultimately, I felt like there was more that I should be doing. And I felt that for many years, even prior to starting my business. But I would say the pivotal thing that changed for me is that during COVID, just in, having a little bit more time, not having to commute to work every day, really did help me to experience a better quality of life. I was at the time working in the Bronx and commuting from Jersey, which on a good day is 15 minutes, but most days was more like an hour to hour and a half to get into the office and to get home. So that was 3 hours of my day stuck in travel. And when I had that extra 3 hours, I was so much more productive. I was able to do things that I had never done before, taking midday walks and just really just watching my son grow and, observing him and how he does his work. Where in the past, I never really did that because I was at work. So that in itself provided a little bit of insight into what life could potentially be. But I would say for me, that pivotal moment, I was taking a course and I was actually reading a book called The Speed of Trust. And it was so life-changing for me. And, some people may read the book and they're like, oh, okay, well, it was a good book, but life-changing, I don't know about that. But for me, because of the role I was serving in at the time, because of some of the decisions that were in front of me to have to make, a lot of things that I was reading in the book and watching the way I was leading and was being led by my president and vice presidents, they were contrary to things that I believed, contrary to a lot of the lessons being taught in that book. And I've always considered myself to be a good leader, very transformational, believe in servant leadership, working, in the trenches with everyone. But it just became like, am I moving away from the true essence of leadership that I believe in? And I realized that I was not making the impact that I wanted to make. And of course, this is all during COVID. Um, and it just, for me, was just like, I love these students. I want to continue working with them in some capacity, but I didn't necessarily want to continue serving as an administrator um, because I just felt like there was more that I could do. I could make a greater impact outside of, the presidential suite. I wanted to be in there with the people. And so I jumped and I did it. And I'm glad that I did. So next question is, what is the scariest, or what has been the scariest part of this journey for you? So for me, who likes to have everything planned out far in advance, I would definitely say the most challenging or scariest part of all of this had to have been um, just figuring out finances, right? You're starting a new company, you're trying to build your clientele, and regardless of how great of a product you may have, like, you still have to market it, right? So there's this initial thought of, okay, I need startup capital to get things going. But then I also have a mortgage to pay. I have a son who's going to be going to private school. Like, when I started thinking about all the expenses that I would have, both starting the company and just my day-to-day expenses and walking away from a full-time job, that was really scary for me. It's still very scary for me because 1 month may be very lucrative. And I have a bunch of really great clients. I might have a really big contract that I have, but it's not promised the next month, right? And so one of the things that I've always done is I've always saved. And so that does give me a little bit of peace of mind in knowing that, if for whatever reason I have a dry month, business wise, I do have a cushion to fall back on. So that gives me some reassurance. But overall, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, when you initially start, one of your biggest fears is financially. How are you going to make it financially? Who has been my greatest supporter or mentor during this process? So I have been very fortunate to have a ton of mentors. And I'll just share a quick story. I was asked to speak at a elementary school. They were doing an empowerment day. And I met a gentleman just by a fluke of accident. He didn't have a connection for the computer. And so I let him use my device that I had with me. And from that, we started a conversation. And this gentleman has shared so much wisdom with me. I can't even thank him enough for it. He's connected me to other individuals. And I think sometimes it just goes to show you that you run into people who have the ability to change your life. I believe it's Les Brown who says, you will meet 3 people in your life who will have the ability to transform your life. Now, whether you tap into it or not, that's up to you. But a lot of times we meet people, we don't know who they are, kind of disregard it. And I think it's so important to, one of the lessons that I have definitely learned was to tap into those people. Don't be afraid to ask for guidance. Don't be afraid to ask for support. My greatest supporter, I would have to say consistently throughout this journey has been my best friend, Joanne. I can't say there has been anyone who has been a more loyal supporter of the Sunflower Nation. And I have great friends. I have a lot of friends who support me, a lot of family members who support me, and I'm grateful for all of them. But every time I need something proofread, every time I'm putting up a flyer, every time I'm hosting something, she is right there. She's giving me ideas. She's encouraging me. So I'm so grateful for that relationship, for having her in my corner. But again, I think it's important for us to tap into people. If you know somebody who's doing something, humble yourself enough to be able to ask questions, but also just observe and follow and learn from them. Okay, next question. If you had it to do again, what would you change in your journey? So I don't know if this question is in regards to my general life journey or specifically to the Sunflower Nation journey. In my life journey, I would have to say I would have paid attention a little bit more to the people around me. I think um, I have experienced certain things that I could have avoided had I been paying attention to who I allowed into my space. So I would definitely say overall, that's what I would do is just pay a little bit more attention. I would just watch out for myself a little bit more and not have the expectation that somebody else is going to treat me the same way that I treat them. In this new venture with the Sunflower Nation, what would I change? I would have started earlier. Because I think I really wanted to wait until everything was perfect to get started. And I learned that things are never going to be perfect. And sometimes you just have to move in fear, right? Like just start. And whatever is missing, you can add it in as you go along, but you just have to start. What am I looking forward to as I grow the Sunflower Nation? So, what I am most looking forward to as the nation continues to grow is really having an opportunity to speak to large audiences and share my story. I'm definitely excited about writing the book and being able to share my full story in that book. I'm definitely working on turning my dissertation also into a book. I'm planning to do a TEDx. That's in the works for me. I am um, looking at developing a monthly newsletter. I think we're going to get those out starting in June. So it's a lot to get done, but it's passion work. It's all of, it's work that I love. I believe in it. While I'm not a technology person, and doing these pieces of this work is challenging for me, I also understand the importance of it. And because I understand the importance of it, I'm able to um, push through, these challenges. Like definitely one of my goals going into the fall is to get a contract with a school district and do some coaching with their administrators. Um, want to continue my speaking at conferences. I want to continue doing research and just keep putting myself out there, sharing my story, making sure that I'm inspiring other people. And if I'm able to do that, then I've lived a good life. To one more question. How has starting the business changed your family dynamics? So that's a good question. Family dynamics, I feel like, are always changing. Just because kids are growing and they become more independent and need you a little bit less, we like to think. But I think what I have learned over the last few months is that regardless of how big my son grows and is, he still needs me. And so one of the things that I have learned um, is really to be intentional with my time with him. So I might not be able to be at every single hockey practice and hockey game because I'm doing other things. But when I am with him, I want to make sure that I'm totally focused on him, that I'm giving him his time and his attention. I also think for my family, it has been helpful because we have had to create more structure in our lives. Even right now, usually my house is very noisy at this time. But because they know what I'm doing, it's quiet right now. So things like that, just sharing with each other what we're doing, what we're working on, and being able to see my family actually come together and support me has really been nice. And I would venture to say a blessing to have the level of support that I have from my family. And it doesn't mean that every day is great because it certainly is not. Sometimes they'll make little comments. But overall, I know that they fully support me and they support the Sunflower Nation. And that means the world to me. What do I miss? This is really the last one. What do I miss most about my old life? So I don't necessarily like to call it an old or a new life. It's still me. I am still the same Edith Banks that I was before. I just am focusing my energy on a different thing right now. But if I had to say, what do I miss right now, pre-Sunflower Nation being put together, I would say I miss my vacations. I am the queen of planning a quick trip. And so I have not been on vacation since Oc- September, October. And usually I do, even if it's just a 2 or 3 day trip, I'll do at least every 2 to 3 months. So it has been a while since I've been able to go away. But that again is I'm, using the majority of my time on developing my brand and growing my business and my clients. So, people talk about a traditional 9 to 5. I work much more than a 9 to 5. I have a set schedule in the morning. I come in, I work through, I pick my son up from school, make dinner, and then come and work some more. So I don't necessarily have the time that, we have a 9 to 5. You could just say, okay, I'm putting in a week vacation, and you're entitled to that. Whereas now, this is my work. And so there's nobody else who's going to do it if I'm not here. So I'm mindful of that. And I'm also obviously mindful of finances, that I don't want to go and, spend lots of money on a vacation when I'm still trying to grow my business. So that has been a little bit challenging. That has been a big change for me, because usually when I'm agitated, I'll go away for, quick weekend getaway. And that helps me. But I don't have that now. But I have this, right? This is something that I really wanted. And I have this. And so if not being able to go on vacation every 2 to 3 months for the next year, is what I have to do, it's a small price to pay. So we are coming up on the 1 hour mark. I don't like to go over an hour. I don't think people necessarily have the attention span for it. And so I want to thank all of my listeners, all of my guests who have worked with me over the last few months. I want to thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. Thank my family. I know there are lots of you on right now, and friends, of course, for supporting the vision as well. Just to let everyone know a couple of projects that we have in the works. We still will be running our pre-college prep courses, workshops for students who are graduating in June and starting college in the fall. So please definitely look out for that. If you know any high school graduates, if it's your child, your nephew, your neighbor, pass the information along. You all know I've been in higher ed for 18 years. And so I'm going to make sure that as your young adults are preparing to go off to college, that they have the skills necessary to navigate that whole system. And so that's what we're going to be doing within the pre-college prep workshops. I'm also going to be running a small group for parents and parenting. And this will be a virtual opportunity to connect with other parents and just explore some strategies for navigating the different phases that our children go through. And of course, check out the website for all of the different services, be it coaching, speaking, program evaluations, or teaching services that I provide. And if you do nothing else, just click the like button, subscribe, visit the Sunflower Nation, sunflowernation.net, to get some additional information on our services, and join the nation of people who are committed to making the world a little bit better. I am Dr. Edith Banks with the Sunflower Nation. May your hearts be filled with the brightest of sunflowers, even on the cloudiest of days. Wishing you love and positive vibes. Until next time, take care.